I knew my wife was lying the moment I saw that gas station receipt, from a place she had no reason to be. Thursday night, 10:17 p.m., the receipt said, Aurora. Holly had told me she was at Jenna's in Golden, 40 minutes the other way, and here was a Shell station in the wrong direction with her card on it. I didn't say a word, just slid the receipt into my jacket pocket and poured myself a bourbon. Over dinner that night, I tested her with two small things. What time she left Jenna's, which route she took home, and she tripped on both, then covered with a laugh. Around 11, I walked past the guest room and heard her voice through the door, low and playful, calling someone baby. I kept walking. Here's the thing about 28 years of marriage. You don't need a confession, you just need a pattern. Next morning while she was in the shower, I took her phone off the nightstand. Face ID unlocked it from 3 feet with her eyes shut. She hadn't set a passcode in years. Hidden folder in messages, labeled D. 2 weeks of back and forth. Baby, what time? Baby, I can't stop thinking about last night. Baby, meet me at the usual place Thursday. No last name anywhere in the thread. But on one of the recent messages, there was a signature block he'd forgotten to turn off, sent from Declan's iPhone. I screenshotted 4 of them to my own phone, put hers back on the charger, and went to make coffee. At the office, I pulled up every Declan in Denver family law until I hit the right face. Declan Yates, named partner at Yates, Brennan, and Shaw. High asset divorces, clients with portfolios north of $2 million. A face I'd never seen before, and a name she'd never once said out loud in 28 years of dinners and parties and shared cars. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was preparing, and she'd picked her attorney out of the same bed she was using. Monday, I drove out to the Commerce City site, where my crew was framing a 20,000-foot warehouse for a client out of Kansas City. Around noon, I swung home for a folder I'd forgotten, and that's when I saw it. A printout on the coffee table, a 3-bedroom condo in Palm Springs, $1.4 million. Pool, Mountain View. I set my folder back down and left without touching anything. That evening over dinner, Holly mentioned, casual as weather, that she was thinking of flying to her sister's place in Scottsdale for a week. I nodded and told her to take her time. After she went up to bed, I pulled the home office door shut and opened the family accounts on my laptop. There it was, a new line of credit against the house, in her name, opened 3 weeks earlier. And then the withdrawals, $3,000 here, $5,000 there, drip by drip, adding up to $70,000 routed into an account I'd never seen before. The paperwork that made it possible? A power of attorney she'd slid across the kitchen island a month back, saying it was for refinancing the mortgage. I'd signed it without reading. General authority, no limits. I sat there for a long minute, then picked up the phone and called my sister Mary Beth up in Boulder. 25 years on high-asset divorces, a voice like a closed door. I told her the shape of it. She said she'd be at my place at 7 in the morning with a briefcase, and until then I was to say nothing to my wife. Not a word, not a look, nothing. Tuesday morning, 7 sharp, Mary Beth came through the front door with 2 coffees and a leather folio thick enough to stop a bullet. Holly was still asleep upstairs. My sister laid everything out on the kitchen island like she was prepping a deposition. Templates, corporate filings, a legal pad already half covered in her handwriting. No prenup. What had I signed in the last 90 days? Whose name was on the firm's building, the operating account, the holdings in the 2 completed projects? I told her about the power of attorney, and she closed her eyes for exactly 1 second, then opened them and got to work. Here's how she explained it. No legal terms. I had maybe a 72-hour window before Holly filed. Before a filing, moving assets around inside the family. Firm's building, project stakes, operating account transferred to Mary Beth as temporary holder with me as beneficiary. That's called restructuring, and it's legal. The day after she files, the same move is called concealment, and it's a felony. The house and the joint checking we wouldn't touch. Those were marital, 50-50, and we weren't going to fight that. She was filling in the first document when Holly came down in her robe. Saw my sister with a folder of legal paperwork on her own kitchen table. Froze for half a breath, then smiled. Mary Beth smiled back and offered her coffee and said she'd stopped by to talk through our mother's estate with Ty. Holly sat down with a face like poured concrete and didn't say a word. By noon, I was driving to a notary in Boulder. By Wednesday evening, every signature was in place. The firm's building, the stakes in both completed projects, the operating account, all legally parked under my sister's name. The house and the joint checking stayed where they were, clean and fair. That night Holly was a different woman, warm, touching my arm at dinner, laughing at things that weren't funny. She floated the idea of the two of us flying to Palm Springs in March. Just us, no phones. I smiled and said that sounded good. Somewhere in the middle of it, while we were pretending to talk about the household budget, she laughed and waved her hand and said, "And if anything's ever off with the money, talk to my lawyer." She winked, patted my hand. I grinned wider. Played the dumb husband who's just been outmaneuvered and doesn't know it yet. She relaxed visibly. Somewhere behind her eyes the calculation softened. He has no idea. After dinner she took her phone into the bathroom and ran the shower, and through the door I heard 6 words. He doesn't know, I swear. That was the last quiet night in that house. Around midnight, when her breathing went even, I went down to the office, pulled up the Yates, Brennan and Shaw website and booked a free divorce consultation for Friday at 9 a.m., used a burner email. Filled in the name Gary Lohman, a freight company owner out of Greeley, small operation, the kind of man who couldn't possibly overlap with anything in my actual life. The confirmation came back within a minute. I printed it, folded it into my wallet, and went to bed. Thursday evening, I took the company pickup, the white one with the firm's logo on the door, the truck Holly had never once ridden in, parked 3 spaces down from her SUV at the house, and waited for her to pull out. She didn't head toward Aurora. She drove into downtown Denver and pulled into a boutique hotel 18 miles from our neighborhood, a part of town where nobody we knew would ever be. She handed her keys to the valet and walked into the lobby like she'd done it before. Last Thursday the receipt had been Aurora. This Thursday the pin was downtown. They rotated their locations, a small thing, but a telling one. A few minutes later a black Audi rolled in. Yates stepped out, not looking left or right, walked straight through the doors carrying a leather folder. I didn't go inside. I sat in the pickup with the engine off and waited. It was past 10 when they came out together. He was carrying that same folder. She was carrying her purse. They walked to the far corner of the parking lot, under a single sodium light, and I had a clean sight line on both of them. He opened the folder on the hood of her car and held down a page with his palm while she signed it. He closed the folder. Then he kissed her, quick, practiced, and she touched his jaw and walked to her door. I watched without much of anything in my chest. I'd already known. This was just the confirmation for the record. I waited until his taillights disappeared and hers went the other way. Then I pulled out onto the frontage road and called Mary Beth from the shoulder. She signed something with him tonight, on the hood of her car, so she files tomorrow. Mary Beth's voice didn't change. Then you walk into his office in the morning, 3 hours before she does. I didn't sleep. Around 1 a.m., I sat at my desk in the home office with 2 things laid out in front of me. A digital recorder I'd bought with cash at a Best Buy that afternoon, and a blank white envelope. Inside the envelope was one photograph I'd pulled out of the album while Holly was showering. 1996. Half Moon Bay. Holly, 19 years old, plain white dress, barefoot in the sand. Both of us laughing at something someone off camera said. I didn't write anything on the envelope. I didn't need to. Around 2, she came downstairs in her robe carrying a cup of tea. She set it down on the desk next to the envelope and stood there, 2 feet away, just looking at me. A long moment. Then she said, quiet, "You're a good man, Ty. Whatever happens, I don't want you to forget that." I looked up and met her eyes, steady, no heat in it. The voice I use when I'm telling a dispatcher to reroute a truck. "Take the tea with you, Holly, and close the door behind you." She stopped breathing for 1 second, picked up the cup, walked out. The door clicked shut. She went back up the stairs knowing something was off, but not knowing what. And that was the exact gap I needed. By 4 I was in the shower. By 6 I had on the charcoal suit, shaved clean, recorder battery tested twice. I picked up the envelope and walked out to the truck. 9 a.m., 18th floor downtown. The receptionist confirmed the appointment for Mr. Lohman. The recorder in my breast pocket had been running since the elevator. Colorado's a one-party consent state. I was the one party. Yates came out himself, handshake firm, smile wide. He guided me into his office, corner unit, dark wood, diplomas on the wall. Up close I was sure. We'd never met. I ran the legend, freight company, 12 trucks, wife in the dark on the real book value. Yates leaned back and delivered exactly what I'd come for. A man at his level never puts it bluntly. He walked me through how, In the first 60 days after a filing, a prepared client could move operating equity through affiliate LLCs in Wyoming, held by what he called trusted third-party managers. This isn't concealment, Gary. It's planning. All that matters is the sequence. For a partner at his level, on a recording, career ending. Instant. He asked if I was ready to move forward. I nodded, reached into my jacket, set the envelope on his desk. He opened it, looked at the photograph. 3 seconds. Then he looked up, and the recognition landed. Not the face, the situation. I pulled the recorder out, set it beside the photograph, pressed stop, and stood up. 28 years of marriage, December. You thought I'd sign papers in your office and walk away? Thanks for the consultation. In the lobby, I handed a sealed copy to the courier for hand delivery to Brennan 4 floors up, paid cash, and drove home. Mary Beth told me to go home and sit. Don't call. Don't text. Let it run. I got back to the house mid-morning and sat at the kitchen island with a glass of water. While I was driving, the building was already on fire. Brennan had played the recording in his own office, called the firm's outside counsel on risk and reputation, gotten a green light, and summoned Yates upstairs. Played it for him. Yates went white, walked back to his own office, and shut the door. He called my cell. I let it go to voicemail. 3 minutes later, an email came in from his firm address. One line. Ty, we can handle this like adults. I didn't answer. Brennan called an emergency partners meeting. By the time they broke, it was unanimous. Yates was suspended from all active matters immediately. Salary continuing pending the internal review and referral to the Colorado Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel. The firm wasn't covering him. They were cutting him loose to save the firm's license. Yates called Holly and told her his career was finished. Around 11, her SUV came flying into the driveway. She didn't walk into the house. She burst. Purse hit the floor of the foyer, face blotchy red, heels still on. She came straight to the kitchen. I stayed sitting. She stood over me and started yelling. And here's the thing. She wasn't yelling what I'd expected. She wasn't yelling about us. She was yelling about him. About his wife. About his teenage daughter. About him calling her 10 minutes ago to say the partners had just pulled him off every case and his career was over. About how she'd called him back 4 times and he wasn't picking up. About how I destroyed a man's life because of my pride. I listened to the whole thing without moving. And somewhere around the 3rd sentence I smiled. Not a mean smile, not even a satisfied one. Just the face of a man who'd just gotten confirmation of something he already knew. I stood up, poured her a glass of water, and set it in front of her. Then I started talking, low and level, no heat in the voice. First the facts. $70,000, Holly. Out of the home equity line you opened behind my back. For weeks of transfers into an account with only your name on it. The power of attorney you said was for refinancing was general authority, no limits, and you knew it. Your signature and Yates's on the hood of your car last night, while I watched from 40 feet away. And a 4-minute recording of your attorney explaining to a stranger how to hide marital assets from a wife. I paused. All of that was you, not him. Then the hit. In 28 years, I've never seen you defend me the way you just defended him. He wasn't love, Holly. He was a promotion. If you'd fallen for a carpenter, this would hurt 100 times worse. Right now, it just tells me who I've been married to. That's not true, she whispered. Prove it. Call him. Right now? Let's see if he picks up. Her phone was on the island, face up. She didn't touch it. A full minute. Then she got up and went upstairs without a word. I walked out to the back porch. First breath in 3 weeks. By evening, she came down with a suitcase and said she was flying to Scottsdale for 2 weeks. Stopped at the door, opened her mouth, didn't speak, drove off. That weekend I drove up to Mary Beth's place in Boulder. Saturday morning, she came in with an update from a friend of hers in the Denver legal community. Yates, Brennan, and Shaw had formally opened internal proceedings. The partners gave Yates the choice out loud. Voluntary exit from the partnership within 3 weeks, forfeiting his equity and handing over his client book, or a forced removal with a simultaneous referral to the state bar. He took the exit. His wife, the surgeon, found out Tuesday from a colleague's wife. Filed for divorce Wednesday. His teenage daughter stopped taking his calls. 3 weeks later, he'd relocated to Grand Junction, joined a classmate's small family practice on the Western Slope, a long fall from managing partner on the 18th floor downtown. Saturday evening, my daughter Ina called from Eugene. She'd gotten her mother's version of the story, curated, soft-focused, and she wanted to hear mine. I didn't embellish. Just laid it out flat. The money, the lawyer, the recording. She was quiet a long time. Then she said she was booking a flight for Friday. 2 weeks to the day after she'd left, Holly came back to Denver with a new attorney and filed for divorce. The split went through mediation. Her attorney explained, any challenge to the pre-filing transfers would fail. Clean. Documented. Done before the petition. Holly took the deal. The house stayed with me. I paid her share in cash, about $350,000. The firm's building, mine. The project stakes, mine. Liquid accounts split down the middle. Holly walked out with roughly $650,000 and her freedom. Thursday, she came for the last of her things. I stayed at the site until dusk. The house was empty in the way only a marriage ending empties a house. On the kitchen island, her key and a folded note. One line, I hope someday you can forgive me. H. I folded the note in half and put it in the desk drawer. Didn't tear it. Didn't burn it. Just put it away. Friday, Ina landed. We sat on the porch with coffee until almost 1 in the morning. Monday, I drove out to the site. The crew was pouring the first floor slab, and Miguel came over with the tablet on a revision to the HVAC runs. I listened, squinted into the morning sun, and signed off. 2 weeks later, Mary Beth forwarded a screenshot. Holly poolside at that Palm Springs condo, alone. Didn't write, didn't call, didn't come back. Moved into